Math Genie.
In this video, I'll be introducing you to divisibility rules. So, there are many easy tricks that you can use to determine if a specific number is divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and 10. So, as you have seen, if you have already been to math competitions, you always see a number like which of the following factors of, 3,453,864. You see those problems, right? And you're like, how do you solve that? Because you don't know the specific tricks that you need to see if a certain number is divisible by a certain number. So in this video, I'll be teaching you guys a shortcut that you can use when solving those type of problems. So in my next videos, again, I'll be focusing on problem solving, but in this video, I'll solely be focusing on teaching this rule. So, number 1. Every number is divisible by 1. 5 is divisible by 1. 10 is divisible by 1. 1,300,000 is divisible by 1. Every single number is going to be divisible by 1. So there are no rules for this. So, no rules to memorize for this. Let's move on to 2. 2, there are some rules, and it's pretty simple. The number have to be even. Every even number is going to be divisible by 2, meaning that 2 is going to be divisible by 2, 24 is going to be divisible by 2, and 480 is going to be divisible by 2. So any number ending in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8 are going to be divisible by 2. Is 31 going to be divisible by 2? No, because it's ending in an odd number, so that is not going to be divisible by 2. Simple rules here. Number 3. How do you know if a number is divisible by 3? So this is another widely known rule. If the sum of its digits is divisible by 3, the number is going to be divisible by 3. So sum of digits have to be divisible by 3. So let me give you guys a short example. So if you're basically given, for example, let's see, 2. If you're given with 762, when you first see this number, you may be like, hey, this is not divisible by 3. However, let's add up all the digits. 7 plus 6 equals 13, and 13 plus 2 equals 15. Is 15 divisible by 3? Sure it is. You get 5 as your answer. So without even trying to divide 762 by 3, we already know that 3 is going to be a factor of 762. You can do this for large numbers, like numbers that goes up to its millions, by just adding all the digits and see if it's divisible by 3, without having to actually divide the number. Let's move on to 4. 4, it's kind of simple because you just have to look at the last 2 digits without even having to add up all the digits. If a number formed by the last 2 digits is divisible by 4, then it's going to be divisible by 4. So another example. Let's say you're given, let's do some larger numbers this time. 23,032. So 2,332. At the first glimpse at this problem, you're going to be like, that is not divisible by 4, right? But let's go more in depth. Like the rule says, we're going to see if the last 2 digits, don't get this part mixed up. Don't get it mixed up with all of the digits. It's only going to be the last 2 digits. It's going to be divisible by 4. If we look at the last 2 digits, which is 32, Is that divisible by 4? Yes, it is, because 32 is divisible by 4. And the factor is going to be 4 and 8. So I already know that this number, without even looking at it, or by dividing the whole entire number by 4, we already know it's going to be divisible by 4. And just as a checkout, let's go ahead and divide it. It should be a simple division here. Divided by 4, negative 5 can go in here, so 20, 33, we have 8, which is 32, 12 comes down, 3. So it is divisible by 4. So you don't have to waste time dividing this whole entire number to figure out that the 4 here is going to be divisible. It's going to be able to divide this large number. You can do this for very, very large numbers, right? Like 127,400, I don't know, 16. Is 16 divisible by 4? Yes, it is. So without even having to calculate this huge number divided by 4, we automatically know that this number is going to be divisible by 4. Let's move on to the next number, 5. It's pretty widely known. If you want to figure out if any number is divisible by 5, you just have to know if the ones digit ends in 5 or 0. So ones digit has to be either 0 or 5. So numbers like, for example, let's do numbers like 12,735. Is this divisible by 5? Yes, it is, because it ends in 5. You don't even have to look at the other numbers. Let's say you're given with the number 1,000,000. Is this divisible by 5? Yes, it is, because it ends with 0, which is also one of the restrictions that you guys have here. So the qualifications are either 0 or 5. And only the ones digit. You don't even have to care about the other digits, like tens and hundreds. Alright? So this is the first 5 numbers that I just introduced you guys to. Recap: 1, no restrictions. Everything's divisible by 1. 2, the number has to be an even number. 3, the sum of the digits have to be divisible by 3. 4, the last 2 digits have to be divisible by 4. And 5, only the ones digits have to be either 0 or 5. The first 5, 1 through 5, if you know these rules, it's going to save you a ton of time at competitions. So I really highly recommend you to know these, right, at the back of your head. Let's move on to the second set of numbers. So you can pause your video and write these down, jot some notes down, and then move on. Alright, next set of numbers. I'm going to start with the number 6. Alright, for 6, if the number is divisible by 2 and 3, it's going to be divisible by 6. So you have to use the rules of the divisibility rules of number 2 and 3 to see if the number is divisible by 6. So let me kind of show an example after writing it down. So divisible by 2 and, keyword there, 3. Because why? 6 is divisible by 2 and 3. So how do you basically reword this? This is basically too confusing, right? Divisible by 2 and 3. How am I supposed to know that? It has to be all even numbers multiples of 3. Remember in my last slide, in my last page, I said that if a number is divisible by 2, it's going to be an even number. And if a number is divisible by 3, if you add up all the numbers, all the digits of a number, If it's divisible by 3, then it's divisible by 3, right? So it has to be all numbers, even numbers, that are going to be multiples of 3. Key word here, multiples of 3. So let's say you have, for example, 291. That's the number. How do you know if this is divisible by 2 and 3? Well, is this an even number? No, it isn't. So is it going to be divisible by 6? No, it's not. Because the qualification that you must have is that it's going to be divisible by 2 and 3. However, is this divisible by 3? Yes, it is. Because 2 plus 9 equals 11, and 11 plus 1 equals 12, and 12 is divisible by 3. So we automatically know that this is going to be divisible by 3. Now, if you want an example, let's say, example number 2, that is divisible by both 2 and 3. Let's take a very simple traditional example, 72. Alright, so for 72, is this an even number? There's 2 checklists. Yes, it is. It's an even number because it ends with 2. Remember, if you want to have an even number, it's going to end in either 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. Is this also a multiple of 3? Let's go ahead and check. What is 7 plus 2? That is 9. Is 9 divisible by 3? Yes, it is. It's 3 times 3 equals 9. So it meets both of the qualifications. So is 72 divisible by 3 and 2, which means it's divisible by 6? Yes, 72 is divisible by 6, and we also already should know that 6 times 12 equals 72, right? So that is how to see if a specific number is divisible by 6. Alright, I really want to go to 7, but 7 really doesn't have a good trick, right? It doesn't have a specific trick like all the other numbers. So for 7, sadly, you have to go ahead and divide it, right? You don't have any tricks like, summing up all the numbers or seeing if it's an odd or even number. There's really no trick for number 7. So sadly, we have to go ahead and skip it. Let's look at 8. Alright, so for 8, if the number formed by the last 3 digits is divisible by 8. If the last 3 digits is divisible by 8, then it's divisible by 8. So, kind of similar to number 4, we look at the last 2 digits. For 8, we're looking at the last 3 digits. Please do not get this mixed up. Not all the numbers, not last 2 digits, last 3 digits. Let's look at some examples. Let's say you have 128. What is the last 3 digits of this number? The last 3 digits is going to be an entire number because you have 3 digits for an entire number. Well, is 128 divisible by 8? Yes, because 8 times 16 equals 128. So let's look at some more complex examples. That was too easy. Let's say you have 248. Well, when you first look at this problem, you may look, I don't want to go ahead and divide a 5-digit number by 8. However, we have the rule. Just look at the last 3 digits here. 248. That is obviously divisible by 8 because we know that 8 times 31 is going to give you 248. So instead of just dividing the entire number, the 5-digit number, by 8, you can simply just use this trick to take a shortcut. Let's look at the next number, 9. For 9, if the sum of all the digits is divisible by 9, that number is going to be divisible by 9. So sum divisible by 9. So, for example, and I'll be taking this example away because we've just mastered it. Let's say you have 189. Let's look at the sum of all the numbers. 1 plus 8 equals 9, and 9 plus 9 equals 18. Is an 18 divisible by 9? Yes, it is. So, we know this is divisible by 9. Let's try a more complex example. Let's say you have 1,521. Right. So just by looking at it, if you didn't know the divisibility rules, you may be like, I really don't want to divide that by 9. But if you know the divisibility rules, it'll be way more easier because 1 plus 5 gives you 6, and 6 plus 2 gives you 8, and 8 plus 1 gives you 9. Is 9 divisible by 9? Yes, it is. So instead of, again, dividing the 4-digit number by 9, you can only divide the sum of these digits and just see if it's divisible by 9. Another shortcut there. Let's move on to 10. 10 is another widely known trick. You just have to see if the last digit is going to be divisible by 0 or just 0, right? And you're just going to see if it's divisible by 0. Not divisible by 0. Sorry for that, because no number is divisible by 0. I meant the last digit have to be divisible. No, last digit equals 0. So, for example, 1,500. Last digit is 0. So this means it's going to be divisible by 0. Only difference between if it's divisible by 5 and 10 is that 5 you can have either 0 or 5 at the end, but for 10 you can only have number 0 at the end. That's the only difference between the two numbers. And I really want to introduce you guys to see what numbers can be divided by 11, but I'll be saving that out for my future video because it's a little bit more complicated than the other numbers. Thank you for staying till the end of this video.
Math Genie.